Well, it's it has just taken me about 1 hour to get the Microsoft, what's it called? This stupid webcam, whose name I've completely forgotten. Something like LifeCam Studio, I think that's it. Yeah. Microsoft LifeCam Studio. I'm using Windows 10, and the high quality Microsoft LifeCam Studio, which is a very good webcam, was just showing black. So the microphone was still working, it's a good quality microphone, but couldn't see anything. Took me an hour. Solution to the problem was to uninstall, well, the way I did it anyway. I did lots of stuff in that hour, but I think the solution was to uninstall the drivers and disconnect the camera, then reconnect. Camera automatically popped up and worked. Okay, so the point of this whole exercise was to make a quick video, and I assure you there is no such thing, at least in this studio, there's no such thing as a quick video. That's an hour just to get started. And the quick video was supposed to be about me editing Time Crystal. Okay, so here we have the screen where I'm editing. I use 3 screens. And this is the edit screen, and those are my notes about what I just did. I tend to keep notes about everything. Here's my middle screen. Ah, dear. So I go back to work. So, on the desktop, I mean, I'm using just a... There's so many, let's forget that. Right. So, I'd start the Time Crystal document, which is a Word document, Microsoft Word document. It contains, how many words? It's going to count 292,000 words. This is the first 2.5 volumes of the book. So we flip through to the bookmarks where I'm currently working. The idea of this little video is just to record my writing process. So I'm editing episode 65. I've in fact written down as far as episode, cool, a lot further than that. But anyway, I'm not having to, but I've decided to edit episode 65 because Francesco, when he's in the lab in building 1 of CERN, he changes the map extensively and then copies it into his notebook. So this is a copy. So that added how many more words? A lot more words. An episode is typically about 3,000, between 2,500 and 3,500 words, and I think that description of his editing process added another 2,000 words. So this chapter is now too long. So as you can see over here, or maybe you can't read this because it might be too small, but I've we have major headings here, which are the episode boundaries. So one of the main reasons I use Microsoft Word, apart from the fact that it's extremely robust, I mean it edits a 300,000 word document with no trouble on this machine. Given enough memory, enough power on the processor, it works fine. And then I've split, at the moment I've split the document, I've split the chapter here. So I can now count the number of words. So if I click on one of my macros, I click on the bottom of the episode and click this up arrow, it highlights the whole episode, and then I can see that currently there's 3,153 words in that episode, which is enough. So that's a good break. And then, so I'm going to have to find a home for the rest of that episode, what was the original episode, and that is another 2,000 words. So I've got 2,000 words which I need to ripple down. But that wasn't why I wanted to come here and describe this and create this video. What I wanted to do was to just record the editing process. So here we are. This is where I got to before I had to reboot the machine twice to make the webcam work. Oh dear. What a nightmare. Okay, so if I've stopped editing and forgotten what I'm doing, I go back to the previous episode and I read. And I use text aloud to read. So I click on this and hopefully you will hear the output.
In the end, the only person he met was Martin. He was standing outside his office talking to a woman Francesco didn't recognize. Francesco was so surprised to see them he had to swerve up to the ceiling to avoid hitting her. She screamed as his flapping suit jacket released a cloud of choking white concrete dust into her face. Martin swore and grabbed Francesco's leg. Although he was nearly 70 years old, the English scientist was strong and agile. His long gray ponytail swung over his multicolored shirt as he held on to Francesco's leg like a bulldog. Francesco felt like a trapped wild bird. "Let go, Martin," he shouted, trying to shake his leg free. "It's me, Romani." It took Martin.
Okay, so that's how I proof the work. Right? So I edit and I proof. You can hear errors which your eyes can't see. So proofing is invaluable. Text aloud there's a free version of it. It's invaluable. It costs $30. Text aloud, very highly recommended. Okay, so the reason I'm going through this is to make sure, because during that process of creating this map, changing this map, I realized that what I had before was wrong. So when Francesco leaves the lab, he leaves behind 3 crystals. And previously I'd had him taking a crystal with the label G1. But looking at this map, this new version of the map, I realised there's no way he would do that. He would take this crystal with the label F2 because it would be linked to his own crystal. These crystals can talk to each other. Or people can talk to each other. There are links. And he knows there's a two-way link between these 2 crystals. He's going to give this crystal, F2, to a colleague, Martin Salinger. So he would obviously take that. So I messed up previously. So it was worth doing. It was worth spending however many hours it's taken to edit, to write these extra 2,000 words. and edit the diagram and all that malarkey-warkey. It was worth it. But it's given me a problem. So what I need to do now is make sure that the text, the remainder of the text, refers correctly to F2. So F2. So this text here, which has got these curly brackets, these double curly brackets mean that text aloud won't read that text out. So I use that to add comments. And before I publish the book, I delete all these. This is a level 3 in the hierarchy. Microsoft Word has this fantastic system of creating styles, and you can create nested headings, and that's what this is showing here. And this is level 3, tells you up here, heading 3, and then I delete all those before I publish. Okay, it's fantastic. Microsoft Word, I've been using Microsoft Word to write for how many years? Well, I wrote my first book using it, and that was 1992, was it? 2002, 24 years, 25 years, and it's still a fantastic word processor. So what I need to do is make sure that when Francesco gives Martin the crystal, so I search now for crystal, So this is where Francesco is the head of CERN, the Director General of CERN. Martin is one of the chief scientists.
I'm afraid there's worse to follow. Shortly afterwards, fragments of little blue crystals emerged from the black hole. Like this, Francesco took something out of the pocket of his crumpled, white-stained suit jacket, and released it into the air between the two men. It floated, glowing so brightly Martin had to squint as he examined it, carefully avoiding getting too close. It appeared to be a small
Notice that we've got Martin's point of view here. So in the first half of this chapter, Francesco was working alone in the lab. We had his point of view. Now I've switched and we're using Martin's. So we're looking through Martin's eyes. And I try to always be looking from one person's point of view at any one time in the book. And you'll find many writers don't do that. They switch point of view. I don't know what's right and what's wrong. This works for me.
Tetrahedral crystal, similar to amethyst, but with more of a blue-green color. One face bore a label with the legend F2.
So I've already edited this before and got F2, which is the correct label on this crystal. Okay, so Martin's now got F2. This is now the end of this episode, so I need to check what the rest of the text says and whether it's a good place to break. I haven't got much choice, actually. If I'm sticking to my 3,000 word limit per episode, I have to split here.
F2. A dozen questions popped into Martin's mind, but one of them was jumping up and down. Why is it glowing? Is it radioactive? No, that was the first thing we checked. Then how the hell does it emit radiation? And why does it float? Martin said. It's not just the crystal that's floating. I've
just noticed that that what I'm doing is so I'm using OBS, I think it's Open Broadcasting System or something, to record this this video, because it allows me to mix together all these. So I've got a view of the screen, I've got the webcam, I've got some text. OBS is good for that, and it's free. But the mic, at the moment, I'm using the desktop audio, which are the speakers, as well as the microphone. So I just need to check which microphone I'm using. So I'm using so I've got a microphone here. I wonder if I can zoom out. Oh dear, 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 dear. Yeah, so if I I can zoom out and show you. There we go. You see here, I have a microphone. Tilt the camera down. So this is a good quality microphone, although the microphone which is connected to which is built into the Microsoft webcam is good quality too. But anyway, God, come on, God, this is pathetic. The zoom control is pathetic. Okay. Yeah, so I'm using, so that good quality microphone can't connect directly into the computer, so it goes through a digital mixer, which is connected to the computer through a USB lead. But as well as that, I'm also recording from so it's desktop audio. I don't think I want to do that. So I've just turned off the desktop audio, so I'll just record from the mic. Ah, what a life. Why do I do all this stuff? Okay, so what happens? Carry on.
I'm floating. You're floating. Yes, but why? Martin's head was reeling now. At first he had been fascinated by this, but now he was simply
So what I'm doing is sticking a comma in by this. At first he had been fascinated by this, comma,
simply dazed, punch drunk from being hit by too many inexplicable facts.
So, because we've got Martin's point of view, we can describe how he feels. Yeah? Although, you shouldn't actually describe how people feel. The advice to writers is that you reveal, you show how people feel by what they do and what they say. But I guess I'm just not a good enough writer to follow that rule. I just say how he feels.
Facts. The only conclusion I can reach is that time has stopped. Without time there is no gravity. Stop right there, Martin said, almost shouting. For God's sake, just stop right there, Francesco Romani. That is ridiculous. First of all, time can't stop. It's part of the fabric of space-time. But suppose it has, then how can we talk to each other?
Okay, so that's the end of that episode. So now I've got the rest of the episode here. So, if you look here, there are 4 threads to this story, and in my system of indicating the threads for my own benefit, and maybe it will get left into the final document, I don't know. There are little arrows, and this one points to the left. So the left pointing arrow means we're in CERN, we're on the Earth. We're following events on the Earth, which is frozen in time, following this disaster in CERN. So the rest of this episode has to go into that thread. There are 4 threads. So you see here, so I just delete the rest of that episode. Here you see we're now in a downward pointing thread, which is where Sam and Tricia are at the bottom of the time tunnel. So they're coming up the time tunnel. So, you know, these arrows, I still get confused. The downward pointing arrow means I'm looking down, oh, they're down there at the bottom. But sometimes I think downward, oh, they're moving down, so they're the guys. So Catriona and Danny Schneider are moving down the tunnel. Arrows are confusing. The whole thing is slightly confusing, but it's it's the best I can do. So I've now got to find the next episode with a left pointing arrow, yeah? So I close up these. Ah, dear goodness me. Close up these episodes, and this is where I want to paste that stuff in. This is where things start to get difficult. Okay, so I'm going to put a break in. So I have break marks here at the top. These quick, what do they call them? I don't know. Quick access toolbar icons. And if I click on that, it puts in the symbol which I'm going to use. I think I have used all the way through to mean the scene changes. So within a single episode, if I have 2 scenes, change of point of view, or change of time, or change of whatever, I put that in. The reader says, aha. Some publishers just use a blank line for that. Being an amateur publisher, like an amateur writer, I do what the hell I want. Okay, so I've now stuck that in. So if we go back to the top of this episode, so we delete possible episode, we know it's going to be a new episode. So this now is the start. So this was previously in the middle of episode 65. It's now at the beginning of episode 69. It's not going to read right, is it? Because I've changed the flow. The reader has just been through, if he's following or she is following episode by episode, she's been through 3 other threads, 3 other episodes. It's 4 or 5 days later. She's forgotten what the hell's happened, and we need to reset the scene. That's one of the difficulties about having these 4 threads. So the 4 threads are Frozen Earth, Entroilia, which is, in my story, is outside the Earth, outside the universe, the place where the universe sits. And the universe, in Time Crystal, is simply a cosmic egg, a tiny egg, which is one of many millions of similar eggs, which are part of the reproductive cycle of bee-like beings called in trillions. So that's the second thread, and then the third thread is Catriona coming down the crystal, and the fourth thread is Sam coming up. Catriona coming down the time tunnel, and Sam coming up the time tunnel. Eventually they're going to meet, obviously, in the middle sometime. Okay, so we're back to this Earth thread. Maybe I should call it E-episode. I don't know. Anyway, suggestions gratefully received. So now my project is, and I just remembered I forgot to turn off my phones. So one of the rules about recording video is you turn off, or I take this phone, which is my wireless landline, take that out into the kitchen, and then my mobile phone was supposed to put on silent, but it's a bit early. It's 7:48 in the morning, and I've been working for how many hours? I started work about 4:30 this morning, or something stupid. So no, I didn't record the first while. First time I recorded was 6:15 this morning, but I've been working for a lot longer than that. Anyway, it's now 7:49. So nobody's going to phone me. So, this episode. So my work in progress is here, so I mark it with a bookmark. I can easily flip to where I'm going. Another invaluable part of Microsoft Word is bookmarks. And yeah, so here we go. Let's listen to this.
Time has stopped everywhere except near these crystals.
No.
I can prove it.
So that made sense after Martin had said, stop right there, this is all wrong. Francesco to say that made sense. Now, it's no good, I can't start a new episode like that. To start a new episode, you've got to first of all grip the reader's attention. The reader knows that time has stopped everywhere. However, looking at the next sentence, it says,
what time do you make it now?
now that is much more interesting. Okay, that's, they call it in media res, I think. Real writers. That's the professional term for this. Something's happening. You're in the middle of the action. What time do you make it now? Question mark. Oh, so the reader comes to that. So who's saying that? Why are they saying it? What's happening? Okay. I've deleted the first. If I delete something, I like to keep a copy. So I just stick it down here somewhere and come back to the work. So if I highlight some text and do Control F10, I've programmed it so that we will text aloud will read it. Here we go. Show off. It didn't work. It's because it's in the middle of reading, I suppose. I don't know.
What time do you make it now? Martin checked his watch. 11:34.
Okay. So previously, So this is the text from before. Martin checked his watch. Now I need to establish that we're on Martin's point of view, and I need to establish his emotions. Remind the reader that Martin is angry and confused and, you know. So how am I going to do that? Martin checked his watch. Yeah, he checked his watch and he said 11:34, but how am I going to show his feeling? If I talk about his feelings, it will be obvious we're in his point of view. So what about Martin frowned and checked his watch? So it doesn't really establish it's his point of view, but we've got some of his emotions being shown, yeah?
What time do you make it now? Martin frowned and checked his watch. 11:34. Okay, Francesco said. For you it's 11:34 on Thursday, the 5th of April, 10 minutes after time stopped. For me he checked his watch, 9:22 on Friday, the 6th of April. For the past few hours I've been doing research on this crystal and the bubble.
Okay, so listening to that, I'm confused. I don't understand. 10 minutes after time stopped? Where's that come from? For the past few hours I've been doing research. I don't understand. I'm confused. Okay? Or I think the reader would feel like that. I understand what he means, but I think the reader would be confused. So what I need to do is do some more work, clarify that, and make it very simple and clear. If the reader's confused, she's not going to carry on reading, is she? And the story's confusing enough, God knows. Okay, so there we go, folks. So that's a small video. I mean, you know, the reason I spent an hour getting this stupid camera to work was so that we would have a reasonable quality a video, so that I could, I mean, one of the things I'm planning to do, I have been planning to do for 10 years or something stupid, is to create videos and maybe live streaming about the author writing. You know, you've got to create some sort of buzz.